All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. This is a very good lesson for today, especially if you are in Canada, at least in the eastern part of Canada, where it is snowy and a little bit chilly today, looking out my window. Christmas is coming, the holidays. We have this week and next week before classes are out for those holidays. But not to worry, we have a jam-packed 2 weeks of live events coming for your classrooms. So if you visit exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all the live content coming up for your classrooms. Register to join in, grab a camera spot, tune in via YouTube, or catch the recording later if you can't make it live. So we hope to see your classroom spending a little bit more time with us before those holidays. So we have had a series going now. This is our second year running a really cool series called Pioneers of the Possible. This is hosted by Arctic and Antarctic explorer, climate advocate, and citizen scientist, Sunva Sorby. She is helping us shine a spotlight on extraordinary individuals who are rewriting the rules of what's possible, breaking boundaries in their fields, and driving meaningful change in the world. So over the course of her career, Sunva has journeyed to some of the most remote and awe-inspiring places on Earth, from Antarctica's icy expanses to the fragile ecosystems of the Arctic. Along the way, she's met extraordinary visionaries, scientists, explorers, innovators, artists, activists, whose work is shaping the future of our planet. Now, through this series, Pioneers of the Possible, she brings them directly into classrooms and communities across North America. So I'm here in Canada, around Toronto. Sunva is in Canada as well, but she's on the West Coast, British Columbia. So let's get her in with us now.
Yes.
Hey, Sunva, how are you?
Yeah, sorry about all that snow, although I'm not. I would love some snow here. As you can see, I am challenged with an unusual sight here on the island, which is sunshine. We've had nothing but rain, so send the snow over here.
All right, I'm sure it'll make its way to you, Sunva. It seems like it's been a while since we connected, but I think maybe last November or last month, it was at the beginning of the month, so it feels like a whole bit of time has passed. So what have you been up to? How was your November?
I have had a great November. I'm just teeing up for what I hope is going to be a pretty big 2026. So I've been actually doing a lot of writing. I'm working on a book project. And I've been developing some new presentations and connecting with different partners. And recently, and maybe you've seen this, but I just joined Wild Women Expeditions as their polar ambassador. So and it's not just about selling trips. It's really about redefining kind of the landscape in the maritime industry and also in those regions that are otherwise male dominated. Although we love men, it's not about that. It's really about leveling the playing field. So it's been fun and busy.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Sunva, I say we get right into it with our guest for today, so we can have a nice big chunk of time for some Q&A action. I have been deep diving into some of his visuals and film, the stuff he does from the sky. It's absolutely amazing. So I think we should introduce Florian. So
Yes.
Florian Ledoux, for the past 6 years, has dedicated several months each winter and spring to living on the ice, immersing himself in the lives of polar bears to document their existence. So he produces amazing, immersive visuals that draw their viewers in to the journey. He's worked as an aerial cinematographer for projects like Disney's Nature's Polar Bear and BBC's Frozen Planet 2. So really using images from above to bring a fresh perspective on behaviors of wildlife in their habitats, creating emotional connections between us, the viewers, and our planet. So again, to spread things out a bit, we've got Florian joining us from Norway. So let's get him in with us right now. Hey, Florian, how are you?
Hey, Good evening, well, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Beautiful.
Great to see
Yeah.
you, Florian.
Yeah, likewise. Very happy to be here and looking forward to share the stories with you guys.
Yeah, well, thrilled to have you. We've got classrooms joining us from Canada and the US. They're going to have a bunch of questions, I have no doubt, especially due to the subject matter. You don't run into many school kids who don't think polar bears are pretty cool. So I think there'll be lots of questions. And Sunva, I know you want to kind of lead things off, start the discussion before we share some images.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Florian, and it's a real pleasure to meet you. I shared this with Joe, but you're the only guest on this series that I've not met in person. But I just have to say that the way that you translate the environment that you move around in, which is Svalbard, and the life of the polar bears is just really otherworldly. And I feel so grateful that the kids get to hear about what you're going to share. But I just want to ask you, Florian, you don't just photograph the polar bears. You come to know them so well that you name some of them. Can you share what it's like for you when a bear stops being a polar bear and becomes a living being to you, and how that might actually change the way you see them and tell their story?
Well, I mean, I think the time where it starts to change is when you spend so much time living out on the ice with them, and you therefore, understand that you follow them, or years after years, you recognize them, you see them growing. So I remember some cubs we saw for Disney. We filmed them; they were just tiny, and then years after years, I had the chance to see them again, see them going through life. And now Svetlana is actually going to be 5 years old around Christmas time, which is wonderful to see them growing. But at the same time, it can be really impactful when they die too early, too soon, because also nature is tough, obviously, over there. Um, what has changed a lot with doing that is basically it's not really trying to put the human perspective into them, but it's more to reflect on how we are also part of nature and what we feel, the emotions, the love, the passion, all of these things. It's also things that animals have within themselves, and we come from the same place. And when you understand that, you want to care a little bit more about any living beings, obviously, because you understand that it's not only human that can feel things. So I think then we started to name them because obviously when you spend so much time with them and you are able to recognize them years after years or even for just one season, you want to be able to speak about them.
Mm,
And sometimes the names can be just, according to a funny situation, just like the Grinch. She was killing a reindeer every day. So, and she was a monster at doing that. She was so good. So then we named it like this, but so it can be related more or less to a situation sometime. We
mm,
name the bears, but it has been definitely a way of creating images that has really changed the perspective, because for me it's not just taking images, as you said, it's more living out with your um, subject, but it's not anymore a subject for me, but they become friends, some of
mm,
them. And then I use my emotions to create something rather than the camera and all the technical aspect is just a tool for me to express these emotions that I feel. And as Joe said, using the drone perspective was also a game changer in bringing a new perspective on how we understand wildlife up there.
mm,
All right. Very cool. Well, Florian, let's take a look at some of that wildlife. I got a little peek at your presentation when you shared your screen earlier. Let's take students into I guess, your office
Yeah,
and see some of that beautiful landscape.
yeah, wonderful. So does that works now?
Yep, looks
You
good.
have
Nice
the
and full
screen?
screen.
Perfect. So, good evening, everyone, again. I'm so grateful to be here and be able to speak with you all tonight. But before we dive in, I'd like to start with a question for you. And hopefully, this question can stay with you for the period of the talk, but also longer. What does nature mean for you? How does it define you and impact your daily life? And I know this was a little bit more than a question, right? But if I'm asking, it's because for me, nature is everything we have on the planet to love and cherish, first and foremost. And today, I'd like to share with you some of the joy that nature can bring to us, really. So, for the past few years, my friend and I have dedicated our entire winter and spring living on the sea ice, immersed in this incredible landscape. This gives us the the opportunity to document the beauty of the Arctic, but also the fragility of this world. So here we have an overview of the landscape in which we daily move, work, and live basically for the month in winter time and spring. In this part of the world, the winter time paint artistic colors on a white canvas. The nuances of pink, blue, yellow, orange make the place absolutely otherworldly. But of course, facing such a beauty, one could easily forget how difficult it is to work in the Arctic, so we can get easily fooled. Because not only we work in a remote location, but we work on a platform that is constantly changing every single day. The sea ice. It cracks and breaks under the pressure of the tide, the glaciers, and the storms. Now imagine adding to this incredible landscape a majestic animal, the polar bear. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So to spend the time on the ice during so many months in winter, my friend and I tailor-made the small boxes, the pods as we call them. The pods become home for the winter time and spring. And not only they give us everything we need to be independent during those months, they also give us safety and comfort. Because believe it or not, having this on the ice is a comfort. Pod life is more than a logistical choice. It's a full immersion in nature. Because in such a place, our inner landscape, the mind, the heart, merges with the outer landscape of nature. Of course, obviously, during the winter, we are faced with some extreme weather sometime. And I remember one day we were up on a glacier when a storm came down on us, and the wind went up to 120 kilometers an hour. Then the wind chill factor temperature went down to minus 80 degrees Celsius for more than 18 hours. And that day I kind of realized that hell was actually a white place on the planet. With the time and the years that we dedicate there, this has allowed us to take part in some bigger projects, as Joe mentioned, Polar Bear for Disney film, BBC with Frozen Planet 2 and Mammals lately, and some others coming on Netflix. But even more importantly, now we are working on our own film projects. At that stage, I usually no longer talk about a passion, but a polar obsession, to the point that, for me, the sea without ice sounds like a music without a melody, empty. Of course, as you can imagine, things didn't happen overnight. There was a quest, a need to reconnect myself with nature, as unfortunately in our society, we grew up quite disconnected from this nature. And for me, this quest started when I was young without knowing it, and I was about 10 years old when my parents took me there. In Finland, in the winter time, it was minus 40, and you bet I loved it. I often used to refer to that time as the seed for my need to reconnect with nature. But over the years, I realized that this is not the reality. Because the truth is, we all have this seed in us. We all have this need to be in nature. Because this is where we come from. This is our origin. So today, transformative time that allow me to reconnect with nature. Oh, sorry. Um, Sorry, I just had an issue with my phone here. Sorry. So today I'd like to share with you some of the most profound experience that I had with wildlife. Some time that allow me to reconnect with nature, and some moment of wonder that often brought tears to my eyes. Here we are at the end of March, February, sorry, early March.
Hey, Florian, sorry, I just want to jump in for a sec. I think when the phone rang, it might have interfered with your microphone a little bit.
Let me go.
That's better.
Yeah, I went just offline. Oh, yeah. There we
Perfect.
go. Yeah,
we got it.
So here we are, early March, end of February, and the sun has just returned on the sea ice after many months of darkness. The sun becomes a blessing, a source of life. The air is cold and crispy, and the sunset feels like forever. In this beautiful light, we just spotted a polar bear male. Just like me, he's also on a quest, but a different one. He's following the tracks of a female. So like this, for many days, or many weeks if necessary, he will follow the scent of the female without even seeing her. He was beautiful. He was huge, pure. He didn't have a scar. And when he came closer to us, curious to smell us, in a perfect silence, I could hear him breathing. In the beauty and the power of the moment, I had goosebumps all over my body. And then he just kept going, tirelessly. Eventually, a few days later, he found the female. And from now on, they will cover together different type of sea ice in different weather. But at the beginning, the male will shadow all the movement of the female. Just like here. If she stops and hunts, he will stop and slip away. If she stops and sleeps, he will also stay away. Otherwise, the female might push him away too soon. But eventually, one day, after many weeks like this, she decides that he is the right male, and she let him come closer into her intimate zone. Then they start cuddling in the snow on the ice. They even played together. That night was beyond magical when they stood up on a hind leg, pushed each other on a fresh, fast ice under the midnight sun. It was absolutely stunning. But what was even more incredible is that they even ice skated together. Can you believe that? They locked the front leg, and with the back leg, they push on the ice to glide together through the midnight sun. When the dance was over, after they mate, they fell asleep together on a perfect white bed. Witnessing such a moment, no one can remain unmoved. So tears came to my eyes. But of course, in a biting cold, they froze. Later, the second part of the season was marked by heavy storm. When we could finally return to the sea ice to work, it was a disaster. This sea ice, our working platform and the bear's living platform, has been pushed away from the shoreline, leaving between us and the sea ice a gap of open water. From that perspective, we understand a bit better with the coastline on the right side, the damage that happened. But the sea refreezing becomes an endless artistic playground. I often refer to the sea ice as an open-air art museum, constantly changing every single day. It is art made by the power of nature. On this thin ice, we met another male. Just like us, he was also struggling with this broken ice. So here he's lying down, spreading his legs in order to distribute the weight to not fall through the ice. From above again, we understand much better how thin the ice was. But the bears are extremely talented, and they learn the skills it takes to navigate this fresh ice from the very young age. Just like here, this young cub, he spent the afternoon with his brother playing at the ice edge, jumping back and forth, just to play, and using this thin ice at the edge to come out. Like this, playing, they learn everything they need to know for the rest of their life. But he was not alone, as I said, and his brother here is coming at full speed to jump on him and broke the ice around him. And then he tried to walk underwater on the vertical thickness of the ice. Once they had played enough, they left the ice edge. The mother found an iceberg. She sat on the top, And not far from us, she called her cubs and started to breastfeed them. It was another great moment of intimacy. Eyes on our binoculars, watching them. They fell asleep together on top of this iceberg. But they are not the only one using iceberg. As you can see, we also climb them. This allows us to scout, search for the different animals, and also read the terrain. During the second part of the season, we met Svetlana, her brother, and their mother Elsa. They just entered into Pyramiden, this old mining settlement. And as the female sat in front of this chaotic background, this kind of sent me a message of hope. The hope that when we disappear or leave a place behind, despite the chaos, nature will still be here and find a way. So Svetlana and her brother should have stayed with their mother for 2 years and a half, approximately. But at the age of 2, a male came in to separate them from their mother as he wanted to mate, obviously. Elsa, the female, the mother, decided that the cub had enough experience at that stage. So she let them go and she went for the male. During the same season in spring later, in May, I had the chance to meet Svetlana again as she was waiting alone at this seal breathing hole. It was extremely comforting to see that her mother had succeeded in raising 2 cubs. And it was even more important for me as I saw them growing from the very first year they were born. On average across the Arctic, 50% of the cubs do not survive the first year, and only 38% will make it to the age of 5. And this winter, as I said, Svetlana will be 5 years old very soon, around Christmas time. Now, not only she became independent quickly, but she also, like other bear, became a master at hunting reindeer. This is an increase in behavior that we see being passed on from female to cubs. Here, it's another sign of hope to me. So with such a work on this behavior and observation, ultimately some question comes to mind. Will the bears disappear when there is no more sea ice? And from my perspective, not necessarily, because what we see on Svalbard is that when a place is protected, nature is capable of great changes. It can recover from our mistakes. It has a strong resilience, but only if we truly give it a chance. Unfortunately, today, we still give quotas to kill about 1,000 polar bears every year. Between 1963 and today, we killed more than 60,000 polar bears. So with the years, the experience and the time that we spend living with them, we have noticed a lot of different details in the animals and similarity with us somehow. And like the females, for instance, they don't separate suddenly from the cub, but it is rather like us. It's a slow separation. The mother will keep an eye on the cub from a distance, even though we think they are solitary animals. Or sometimes it's the other way around. The cub will follow the female from a distance. Last winter, we met a female quite early in a season. It was early March, sorry. And unfortunately, she was out of her den. Oh, can you still see the? There we back. Unfortunately, she was out of her den extremely early, and sadly, she must have lost her cub. She was weak. She was not in a good shape, and she looked extremely sad. Perhaps on this image, I could feel her crying. This was heartbreaking. But the bears can also appear to be extremely joyful, just like this young female here that spent the afternoon playing in the water like this, just because she could. It was in May, pretty warm for her. The individual that we meet out there are all different. They all have different characters, different behaviors, and also physical differences, which in turn allow us to recognize them and personalize them. That's how they eventually become friends to me. Like this young female here, Grinch. When she died at the age of 3.5, my heart sunk. I could not believe it. Like us, the animal have feelings, emotion, such as fear, love, sadness. So in the end, are they really that different from us? Unfortunately, today there is only 4% of wild mammals left on the planet. And despite this, we still struggle to find a balance to live in harmony with them. Yet, this is where we come from, nature. This is our origins. And that's for this exact reason that when we are out there, even if it can be challenging at times, it still makes us feel great and good. It brings a certain balance and joy in us. It is like realizing that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves, something that we need to protect because it sustains our life on the planet. So I'm sure you have heard of it. The Arctic is melting extremely fast, and Svalbard, where I work and live, is melting 7 times faster than the rest of the world. And today, when we're facing this loss of biodiversity everywhere, the climate disruption, it is more ever important that we reconnect ourselves to nature. Because in the end, the loss of biodiversity, the climate disruption, all of this, they are not problems, they are not issues, they are consequences of our bad actions. And these bad actions comes from our disconnection with nature, from nature. Because when we feel part of a society, a school, a family, we usually want to protect this place. We want to nourish it to make it a better place. So if we could feel like we are part of nature, we would protect it instead of destroying it. I'd like to share with you a short video that hopefully can transport you a little bit more on a journey into the Arctic.
The Edge of Silence. A hymn to the fragile, the infinite. Where time fractures like the ice, its edges softened by the sun's slow arc. Light bends, shadows stretch, the land becomes a dream. The thread of life pulls taut, binding existence to impermanence. Etched by winds, torn by currents, a world both delicate and brutal, where glaciers rise like citadels, where life abounds in quiet defiance. Stillness teaches, and silence speaks. A language of presence, not of absence. To wait is to listen is to yield. What is fragility but resilience unfurled? What is smallness but the vastness within? In this place of opposites, light transforms the broken into beauty. It echoes.
So today it is crucial and urgent that we reconnect ourselves to nature and feel part of it again, as it is our best partner and life support. Nature has far more to offer us than the resources we exploit. It can bring us a deep joy and stability and give a meaning to our life. Thank you.
All right, Florian, let's get Sunava back in here as well. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. Yeah, that landscape.
It wasn't easy to do it behind the screen. I actually felt more at ease or comfortable on the big stage.
Yeah. It is kind of strange to talk to a computer and trust that there's people who are out there and who are listening to you as well. But I can tell you that there were people listening. There's things in the chat like beautiful. That's so cool. I've got questions about polar bears coming up. So we're going to turn things loose to the classrooms in a second. But Sunava, you and Hilda out in Bumsaboo, you were no stranger to polar bears. You had visitors quite regularly.
Yes, we did. And I have to say, Florian, I was going to say it in French, but I forgot the French word. There aren't a lot of people on the planet that can take me right back to where we were for 19 months, but you did it.
Oh, wow.
Over the course of our 19 months, we had over 100 polar bear encounters. One of them was right there. This is when I opened the front door. He's probably about 700 kilos. He was a big boy.
Yeah, he looks big. Yeah.
He was big.
You can tell with his head.
What's that?
You can tell that he's big by the head.
Yeah, this was too close for comfort, but just being on foot, and that's something that I think is hard to really kind of articulate, is when you are out there, you had your pod, we had our cabin, but when you're not with your pod, and you're on your snowmobiles or you're up on top of an iceberg, you're very, very exposed.
Yeah, we can be, but we also have a lot of procedures in the way we walk to take all the safety and precaution for us, but also because we don't want to end up in a situation where we would, have to be in a sad position of defending ourselves. So when we go on an iceberg, for instance, we would go around a few times before to navigate and circle around to make sure that there's no, bear in a hole or just around behind. So we do that, and then when we park at the bottom, we always have like a very nice clear escape with the snowmobile. So there's always a way out. So in a worst case situation in the winter, we never had to use a gun or even flares because we have the snowmobile, so we can actually escape away.
And Sunava, I've got one more picture here. I know this is a bear. Oh, maybe I can make that a bit bigger. That was pretty important to you guys. And I think I'm going to share a link. There's a film tied to this as well, I think now.
Yeah, Florian, I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Violet because we actually named this female Violet. And that's the first time we saw her with her 15-kilo cub. And you just mentioned this in your presentation. The last time we saw Violet, she had 2 cubs. And we saw her in the morning, and sure enough, in the late afternoon, early evening, and this was early in May, right before we left Bumsaboo, the male was on her tail.
Yeah, and when the cub is that young, then she has to flee and protect the cub.
Yeah, and we found out that she had since lost those 2 cubs, sadly. So it's sad, you get connected. They become your bear.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're going to change gears now to a little Q&A action. Florian, now that the presentation's over, I want to just experiment with your audio. We're getting a little bit of static feedback.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you want to go to your audio settings and just switch the microphone And you can switch the speakers too if you want. Just switch them to the MacBook ones. And we'll try it that way for the rest of the Q&A and see if we can get it cleared up.
Microphone mic.
Microphone
I hear the microphone. That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
should be here.
Yeah.
Much better.
You can still hear us okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
You can get
Good.
any echoes from the MacBook now?
No.
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 No. Should have done it like this then.
Yeah, that's nice now. I don't know what was going on, but partway through it started to get a little funny. But I didn't want to disrupt your flow and figure it out in the middle of things. But it still sounded good.
We could have swapped.
Okay, so we've got lots of questions here, so let's get started. I've got Madame Nancy's crew who's joining us today. They are in Kamloops, British Columbia. So we'll see. There we go. I see someone sliding to the camera. Hey, Madame Nancy's crew.
My class just left to go to the library. Je m'excuse.
Oh, that's okay. They didn't happen to leave any questions for us?
No, the teacher just came and got them, and I'm like, well, but they all were taking notes and really enjoying the presentation, and I loved it. Thank you so much, Florian. That was very touching. So we'll catch you another time. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Let's grab a couple here from YouTube. So this first one is from Cesar. Cesar's joining us all the way from Nicaragua. And he's wondering, the polar bears, when they're hunting, do they ever get into fights? What's that like?
In fight together between them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but most of the time when we see them in the same place, they know, if they are weaker or stronger. And like a bear that is smaller won't try to fight with a big bear. Like if they're following a female, for instance, that's when they might actually be a bit more in conflict, but they don't just tend to fight like this. But if they're following a female, there can be some kind of hormones or ego there, if we can call it like this. But then we often seen like younger bears trying to come around the same female, but then if there's a big male there, they would just do nothing. They just go away because they're not stupid. But yeah, I think it also depends a lot on where in the Arctic you look at. Like there's places where they will wrestle a lot more just to play, and like in Churchill when they have nothing to do. Maybe a little bit more in Wrangel, but on Svalbard, I rarely see fights basically. And sometimes I see a bear that is injured from a fight, but it's not often. So yeah, things can happen, but it's always like with nature, it's not because things happen once that they all do that. It's also one thing we tend to do is to categorize things in nature, 0 or 1. But it's not because of bear. For instance, a question I often get is like, do they eat the cubs? Not necessarily. They want to mate with the female. And if the cub is in a way, they might, be a bit more violent. But most of the time, the cub goes away. So it's not because you see it once that they all do that, basically.
Okay. I've got another question here. This is from, let me make sure I get the name right. Adve, and Adve would like to know, you saw the image with the polar bear eating, and so it was covered in blood, and they're curious to know how they get that off their fur afterwards.
No, well, I mean, it's surprising, but bears seems to like to stay clean, most of them, when they can. So if there is some open water, they will go for a swim. But they also, like after they've been killing a seal or eating, they will clean their paws and eat between the claws. And they like to clean themselves. So they will also just lick themselves a little bit for the, paws and stuff. But if it's very bloody, they might just go in the water as well.
Okay. So we have a homeschool crew hanging out with us in Topsail, North Carolina. So I'm going to bring them into the call because I have a feeling they might have 1 or 2 questions for us.
Yeah. Hi, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today?
Awesome. So I have a few questions. My first question is, what's your favorite part of your job?
I think it's being immersed out there on the ice, because when you are there, everything is quiet and you live in the present, in the moment, and there's no more stress. I mean, all you need to think about is, the weather, the sea ice, and where are the animals to be safe, and to film them. But it's really like, being out in this huge landscape.
And then the bears and all the animals is the cherry on the cake, you know.
Yeah.
We'll probably take turns, Florian, because I was rather floored by just how majestic and still your presentation was. Like, you know, that
Thank you.
quietude is beautiful. So in a world where there's so much stimulation, overstimulation, greed, just too many exciting things and noise, how and categorization, as you said, how can we take some things maybe you've learned from the polar bears and be better people, right? And lean into that quiet. It's just so beautiful.
Thank you so much. No, and I get catch up also by society and the speed we live. When I live here and I have to do the editing and work on all the projects. So what I'm trying to apply also when I'm here is to just try to be in nature a little bit as often as you can, basically, because it always makes you feel, like if I do a day of computer and office thing, and then my head is buzzing, then I just go out. I mean, fortunately, I live in Tromsø and I have the nature right out there. I have a mountain I can ski. So I try to do that. And then I totally switch and, I come back home and I'm like a new person. So really going out in nature is always going to benefit you and make you more well. And then if you do that in between all the busy tasks you have to do, then I think it helps to keep sane inside, basically.
And Levi and I have a related question. This story, Florian and Sunniva, your experience living among the polar bears reminds me an awful lot of another nature hero, Jane Goodall, and her experience living with the chimps. So I was wondering, has anybody ever made that comparison to you? Do you have any inspiration maybe you've drawn from her way of just observing the natural world? And then my daughter was wondering,
what is it like living with the polar bears?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll kick that one off. Just sadly, we lost, one of the great ones this recently. I've met her a couple of times, and we actually hosted Dr. Jane Goodall on our very last video call, just like this, with Joe from Bumsaboo. So look it up. But she, I keep telling people I'm going to go out like Jane. I'm never going to retire because, the work that we're doing, it's not about what we can gain. It's about what we can give. And I feel, not to give my TED Talk a plug, but I tried to distill 30 years of working, in the Arctic and the Antarctic on and off, of what value are those experiences to other people? That was my big question. How can I turn it into something meaningful? So I did a TED Talk last June, and it's called From Polar Bears to Phytoplankton, Stories of Hope, because it points to that very thing that we are living in an overstimulated world with a lot of truths and untruths. And it's really hard to figure out where we even fit in that equation. And we don't have to travel to the Arctic, although that is a destination that's off the charts. You can find magic in your backyard. And Dr. Goodall started off as what we call a citizen scientist. We're all citizens, and we can all make observations through curiosity and data. And that's something that we can all do in our lives for ongoing science projects, because silence does not weaken us. It actually sharpens us, and I really feel isolation. If we look at the world of our work in the Arctic, isolation is not empty. It's full of answers if we're just willing to stop and listen.
All right.
Thank you for that.
As per usual, great series of questions. Thank you so much for being so thoughtful.
Thanks, Joe. And just a fun, quick thing. I was wondering, favorite nature writers. I recently discovered Mary Oliver. I think she's fabulous, but she doesn't talk a lot about the cold, and she doesn't talk a lot about the ocean. Who are your inspirations for nature writing? And Joe, you might have an answer to this question too.
You go ahead, Sunniva or Florian, if you have some ones you want to share.
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind for me is a book that came out maybe in the 50s, Rachel Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really probably one of the first environmentalists out there when she was calling, calling attention to the lack of birds that were showing up in her backyard because of all the pesticides. But yeah, she is a very profound writer. I have a bookshelf of, some of my favorites, but I'll just share that one.
Well, for me, it was more like nature photographer that has been inspiration, or conservationist like Jane Goodall, of course, and Amy Vitale, Vincent Munier, the French wildlife photographer also. So yeah, it's been a bit of different, but a lot of inspiration came from nature itself to me. It was.
Mm-hmm.
I realized only that now, but when I was young, I was pretty shy, and photography came as a way of expressing myself, expressing my emotion that I felt, and that's also still what I try to use today, to create the images. But yeah, I think it all came from there, and it could have been painting, writing, music, but it turned out to be photography for me, and then I tried to. It took some years to develop into that direction, but the inspiration is all from nature. As I said, the art is from nature, not from me. I'm not the artist. Nature is the artist.
All right. So dig around our YouTube channel a bit, because you'll find at least 3 or 4 events that we've done with Jane. Florian mentioned Amy Vitale, who's a big friend of our program. She joins us regularly, so she's a great one to follow some of her work that she does. Yeah, very cool.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, team.
Thanks so much, Lily.
Back to YouTube for a couple more. We have a classroom of 4th graders in Kitchener, Ontario. So they're studying animal adaptations right now. And so they want to clarify a few things. First of all, they want to confirm the polar bears are part of the bear family. It's not a trick like koala bears. So they want to confirm they're part of the bear family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they're wondering how long you've spent in the field with the polar bears. And then their white fur, is that something that they're born with, that adaptation, or does it come in as they grow a little bit more?
Also, the time we spend with them is quite a lot. Basically, when we have the spots, we live out there with them. So from usually January or February when the sun returns until May, June, or sometimes July. Like for Disney, for the polar bear film, we stayed 6 months non-stop out with them. So then you become a little bit, in your brain, it's sort of like all about bears. Where are they? How do they, and then you go back to society and it's like, oh yeah, just like the bears, you compare everything to the bears. So yeah, we do spend a lot of time with them. Wouldn't be able to count, but it's been 6 years at least like this. So it's many, many months every year. And then what was the second question?
They're just wondering if they're born with the white fur, or does it come in eventually?
No, so they are born. Actually, when they are in a den, they don't have any fur. They are blind. They don't see anything. As I said, they can't hear. So they're not finished really in a den. But yeah, then when they go out in April, they have the fur and it's white. And actually, when they are young, it's pretty clean and white, pretty light. And then it becomes more like yellow cream-ish, and they actually have like it's kind of tricky because they're not white. They have a black skin below the fur, and the hair that they have, the fur is transparent. So it's only the refraction of the light that creates this white. It's like, everything, it's like ice in Svalbard. It's not blue. It's the light that refracts from the ice that make it look blue. So yeah, they are born with white fur. Yeah.
Okay. I have one last question here from the chat. This class noticed that when you're filming the bears, they never look up at the camera. So are they used to it? Is the camera far enough away they don't hear it? How does that work?
So one of the key for me is always to show animals doing natural behavior. So that's also why we spend so much time. And regardless, when we are on the ground doing long lens stuff or up in the air with a drone, the approach is the same philosophy. You take a lot of time. You start from far away. On the ground, it's actually, we're never gonna go to a bear. We place ourselves ahead of the bear, and then they will eventually walk 2 kilometers and come to us if they feel like. but it's not us going to them, and in the air, it's also like a very slow approach, like you would approach, I don't know, a deer in a forest. You would stop if he sees you. So like I start also quite high, like a good 100 meters. So that takes the sun away a little bit, and then also come down the wind. So the wind is always a bit there in Svalbard. So it takes away the sun a bit more. And then you start high and move slowly and approach. But of course, they know that we are there, either on the ground or in the air, because we don't want to surprise them and scare them. And we also need to make sure that through the approach phase, they accept us. So that's also like the way to see, okay, they tolerate us. They know that, of course, they know we are there. They always like, they're so curious, and they're always smelling around, trying to understand what they have in the surrounding. That's how they survive. They're extremely curious. So they know we are there, but they're not scared, or they're not, as long as we don't see a change in the natural behavior, then we estimate that there is no disturbance. But sometimes, for no reason, you can see a bear from like 3 kilometers away, and you are quite far with the snowmobile, and you won't tolerate you already. So then we don't even walk with this type of bear. But some others, like Grinch, she would tolerate everything, drone and us. And she was a bit too curious because she was extremely young. Yeah, sometimes the first year she would come a little bit too close. Then you have to, put some boundaries and tell them, no, you have to stay away. You just speak to them like you speak to a dog. Quite strict orders. Make some noise, and most of the time this is just enough to get them to move away. They don't get scared. They're just like, oh, this is not nice, this is not something, and they understand they can't come closer, and then they just walk away most of the time.
All right. So Sunniva, you have a cool opportunity coming up in June to join you in Svalbard. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that before we wrap up today?
Yeah, and Florian, and maybe I'll save this for another time, but I was going to ask you of what value you think it is to visit these places that are changing so quickly, but maybe that's another question for another day. In June, I'm going to be hosting a group up in Svalbard, June 15th to the 25th. And, these places for me are, we have a lot of places we can tick off on our bucket list in the world, right? But that's not why I travel anymore at all. It's really about shining a light on what's really happening to our natural world so that we do create better stewards and encourage people to have a deeper connection to our natural world, because it's really in trouble. We hear all that in the news, but there is something that all of us can do about it if we actually understand a little bit more. So yeah, that's happening in June, but I think this is why this series and why the work that you're doing, Joe, is so important, is because you introduce students and the general public to people who are really doing deep dives into their love of our natural world and protecting species. And it's no different from what any of us can do that haven't done that yet. So I think these are invitations to join us in that kind of like, whatever we want to call it, movement, if you will, or I'll leave it like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to our classrooms. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for the great questions as well. Sunniva, thank you for organizing a great session. They're always great ones. So you can go back in time on the channel, Pioneers of the Possible. You can find the last couple that we've done together. And then Florian, it was great to have you join us for the first time and to share your work and, your storytelling. The passion comes through in your storytelling. So I don't think audiences and classrooms can help but be captivated by the words and the images that you share and you bring to them.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to share that with you. Really.
Thank you, Florian.
All right. Well, we are racing towards the holidays, so I hope everybody, if this is your last session with us, have a great holiday season. But we still have 2 weeks of events coming up, so we hope to see you with us before that time. But for now, we'll say goodbye. Enjoy your week, everybody.
Joyeux Noël, God Jul.
Good Jul, Joyeux Noël. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
All right.